Hi folks, Andy C here from Andrew Chappelle Natural Bodybuilding on Facebook. Check out Instagram as well at Fuel by Scott's Oats there for more content, and also be sure to check out the YouTube channel Pro Natural Performance for some podcast stuff that I've done in the past. Lots of content on there. So today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind, and that's this idea of genetics and genetics in sport. So let's get into this. Now, the reason this has been on my mind is not because it's been something that's really been directed at me directly, although it has in the past, but really more so for arguments I've heard discussing other people. Now, me, myself, I learned a long time ago to sort of stop listening to what other people thought of me, and really, those that know me closely will sort of know that really I couldn't really care what people say or think about me. And that really allows me to sort of really not take anything too critically or sort of take anything to heart when people have got constructive criticism for me, because I know that they're just offering feedback. And again, if people are wanting to talk shit, then I don't really care either. Also allows me to be honest. So if someone asks me an opinion on something, then I can give them a truthful answer in response. And that sort of trait, that helps me out sometimes. Sometimes it hinders me, but that's just my personality and that's the way I am. However, when you want to talk about genetics, if you want to undermine someone's achievements or accomplishments, one of the sort of best ways to do that is just to sort of say, well, this person's managed something because of some sort of genetic underpinning. And immediately you erase all the hard work, all the sophisticated training plans that they've put together, all the well thought out knowledge that's gone into establishing a training plan, and all the years and hard work that's gone into grinding to produce that world-class physique, that strongman strength, or that powerlifting power. Again, in other sports as well, sprinting, jumping, running, all those sort of traits. So if you sort of say, well, this person beat me because of genetics, then again, you just sound yourself like a little bit of a sore loser and say that, well, you're not taking responsibility for your own shortcomings and your inability to train smarter, train harder, to diet better, design better training programs, etc. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that genetics are not a factor that determine someone's success. Far from it. We know from research that's been done by Jason Timmons, used to be at Birmingham University, and he's done some great work on responses to exercise in terms of aerobics. You put people on a training program for say 12 weeks, some people get phenomenal results, they're high responders. Other people, they don't really get any improvements at all. They're the non-responders. And you're talking about 15% of the population are going to be in that high responder group, and as much as 20% of the population are going to be in that low responder group. Now that's for aerobic exercise, and that's only sort of one component of fitness. That might be VO2 max. So it's not to say if you don't respond well to a particular type of program that you can't respond well to a different type of program. Now, by definition, if you enter yourself into strength sports, strongman powerlifting, bodybuilding, or you start to take part in athletic competition beyond going into just say basic club levels and doing things for fun, then you've already established and sort of conceded that you're probably one of those high responders. You're probably one of those people already that are in that group that respond quite well to exercise. Because if you weren't, you wouldn't be the sort of person who's likely to take part in these things in the first place, because no one goes into these things to deliberately get their ass kicked. And actually, you hope that you've got people around you that are going to say to you, look, you're not ready, you're probably not going to be competitive, so you need to either spend a little bit more time refining what you've got, or this is maybe not going to be for you, because some of these pursuits, well, you can do some of them for fun. I mean, powerlifting, you could probably do that for fun, even strongman for fun, but something like bodybuilding, we're talking like a 25-week diet, it's just not worth it to get all the way to the end and then get no call-outs to stand at the back of the stage for the total emotional and physical investment. So the hypocrisy in arguments where people talk about, well, it's a genetic component, just it baffles me. It baffles me, because by doing a competition, specifically bodybuilding, I often talk about, you're conceding that you're already in that 99.9% percentile of people who build muscle effectively, and much more so than your average regular population. So that's one part of the argument I think that's worth considering and really worth breaking down. The other part is, well, you don't know someone's background and you don't know where they've came from. So I think it was Rich Seniwell said this to me the other day, and I thought it was a great point he made. He said the fitness industry is one of those few industries where people are willing to make judgments and make calls, come to conclusions based on only half of the information. So by that, I guess what he's trying to say is, well, you don't know all the variables, you don't know all the decisive factors, so how can you come to any sort of sound conclusion on someone's physique or their strength or whatever, based solely on this argument about genetics, when you don't know all of the other stuff they've got in the background? So obviously I've said before in videos about, okay, you need to train hard, but also you need to train smart. So that's going to have an influence on someone's ability to get a result. People that train smarter, they're going to do a lot better than people that just train hard, especially if they train hard while they're training smart. So that's a factor. But whenever we approach any sort of sport, we have to consider a few things. We have to remember that if you want to be world class in any sort of pursuit or activity, provided that your training is adequate, or your training is at least properly molded so that you produce the results, because you can do 10,000 hours of bad practice, then you'll become world class at almost anything. Now, there are virtuosos, there are people who will become world class and actually they've got that little bit of extra something, that little bit of extra gift that helps them genetically, they've got that little bit of extra talent, excel above the other people. However, if you want to be almost an expert, or if you want to be a world-class athlete, then we're talking 10,000 hours of practice. So one thing I know from the research that I've been doing into bodybuilders is that if you go to the British finals, what we see is the athletes that place well are the athletes that have typically been training the longest, and they've also been competing the longest. So that means they've spent more time in the gym than people that are less successful, people that don't win trophies. So they've had more years to accumulate muscle tissue. They've also been competing for longer, so they've had more time to practice their craft. They've had more time to practice getting themselves in shape, applying tan for competition, doing the competitive process on the day itself, not getting nervous, stage time. They've had more time practicing peaking plans, and all that stuff matters, and it's going to have an influence on the overall quality of the athlete that we produce on a day of the competition itself. Now, whenever we sort of have to think about sports, and we talk about bodybuilding in particular, or even powerlifting, we have to remember that most people that take up bodybuilding, powerlifting, they sort of come into these sports from other sports. And that has a massive factor that will influence the amount of lean body mass that someone's likely to gain when they start really taking their powerlifting seriously or their bodybuilding seriously. So, if you were someone that was a power athlete, you did shot put, you were a sprinter, you maybe did something like rugby, or maybe even you've come at this from playing, like, say, football, so American football, soccer, then you probably spent a lot of time doing sprints. You probably went to your football training, your rugby training, you maybe did some strength and conditioning. You've maybe already built yourself a suitable base so that when you go into the gym, the response you get to exercise is phenomenal. So you get great results right off the back. Now, some people could mistake that just purely for a genetic advantage. So if you gain, say, 3 kilograms while all your peers around you are only gaining 1 kilogram, they're going to look at you and they're going to say, well, this guy's got great genetics, This is the reason that he's able to improve his muscle on his frame and get stronger than the rest of us. So that's why I'm not making improvements. When the reality is, if you're coming from a background whereby you've never really played sports, you've never really done much physical activity, your diet's always been very poor, and then you jump into the gym, then you're talking at least maybe 6 months whereby you're just getting neurological adaptations. You're just learning how to do the exercises. You're just learning how to coordinate your body. So you don't get those great improvements that your peer gets who's coming at this from a power sport background. At the same time, we've got guys who've maybe been cross-country runners, we've got people who have been maybe marathon runners, and they're coming at this from a slightly different angle. So they've got high aerobic capacity to start with, which is undoubtedly going to help them when it comes to actually lifting. It's going to help them with their mental capacity to push themselves, but not necessarily help them in getting those large spurts of muscle tissue growth initially. And this is what I like to call the genetic fallacy. So this is the idea that someone gets great gains purely based on genetics, when actually they might have fairly substandard, well, rather not substandard, but they may have fairly average genetics to start with. But the only reason they're getting those improvements is because they've laid those foundations, and actually they've already done, say, 1,000, 2,000 hours of practice, whereas you're coming at this from 0 hours of practice. So you could be, when you start, already 2-3 years behind someone else when it comes to actually building tissue. Now that doesn't mean you should give up, but it does mean that you should probably cut people a little slack, and you should probably concede that actually it's not always genetics, and that even if you put in the hours, you might one day manage to get yourself to where you want to be. Now if I look at myself as an example, when I was, say, 15, 14, I played a lot of football, I played a lot of sports, gymnastics, soccer, I loved them. Specifically I played in goal though, which meant, as in a position in soccer, I was doing a lot of jumping. There's a lot of explosive activity when you're diving around. You have to do lots of reflex stuff. And also I was good at gymnastics, so I was doing lots of tumbling. I was doing lots of handsprings and things like that. So really powerful, explosive sports. I had good muscle coordination because when I went to football training when I was younger, I had this hard work, discipline, attitude worked into me. So I was always doing lots of fitness stuff, and I always wanted to be the fittest guy in the team, because there was always this thing about the goalie being the fat guy. Well, I wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted to say, okay, well, I may play in goal, but I'm as fit as you guys that play outfield. So when it came to doing push-ups, sit-ups, football training, I was always trying to do the most out of everyone because I'm a competitive guy. And that gave me the foundations that I needed for when I went to the gym. So the first time I started bench pressing, I could already do, say, 60, 70 kilogram on a bench press, but I could do it for reps quite well. So after a year of training, I was already benching 100 kilogram. And that's just because what I did in the past, it wasn't genetics. When I was 19, 20, I could do a 180 kilogram deadlift, and I could do it for reps. And it wasn't because I'm particularly strong naturally. I mean, I'm not a big guy on my muscle frame, but it was because I had a background in training. My muscles were already strong, and I'd laid the foundations of training in the past. Whereas other people coming at this from actually after 1 or 2 years training, they might not have been able to get those sort of numbers. And it wasn't genetics, it was because I worked hard in the past. I had already put in 2,000-3,000 hours worth of purposeful practice to start with, and that really made the difference for when I actually approached the weights. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Like I say, that's my rant about the genetic fallacy. If you like this video, then be sure to leave some comments in the section below. Like it, share it, and check out the other content on my other platforms as well. So thanks for your attention, and keep lifting hard.